is so tiny. How tiny was he? He's so tiny that if he were around during the slavery days, they wouldn't use a whip to tear through his black back. They'd use dental floss.
Like, what is it that you expect me? You want me to take a live production and stand up and fight Tony or have a reaction like
on the Breakfast Club, and he was talking about how, what was I supposed to do? Jump up and, Tom Brady did that, right? Tom Brady did that.
I love Robert Kraft.
The fallout from the racist jokes at Kevin Hart's Netflix roast continues to grow louder online, and more black comedians are now stepping forward publicly to hold Kevin accountable. If you have not been following this story, the controversy centered primarily on material delivered by two comedians, Tony Hinchcliffe and Shane Gillis. The sharpest backlash came from Hinchcliffe's joke referencing George Floyd, but what pushed people from uncomfortable to genuinely outraged was how hard Kevin Hart laughed at it, especially considering that Kevin was personally among the celebrities who showed up to attend George Floyd's memorial service in 2020. The people hit hardest by both the joke and Kevin's reaction were George Floyd's own family. His brother, Terrence Floyd, and his uncle, Selwyn Jones, both came out publicly and stated that the family was deeply shocked to see Kevin laughing at material like that. Terrence made the point that Kevin's presence at the memorial demonstrated he understood their loss personally, which made seeing him laugh at a joke mocking that loss feel like a direct betrayal. Terrence also directed blame at Netflix and the production team, arguing they had every opportunity to edit that moment out before the special went live and chose not to act on it. And the George Floyd joke was not the only moment targeting black pain for laughs. Shane Gillis delivered lines referencing slavery and made a lynching joke as well, and Kevin's reaction was the same, laughing hard and standing up to shake Shane's hand.
Kevin's origins, you have to go back to the beginning. Kevin's ancestors came to America in a slave ship in a bottle. Kevin actually did really well in Saudi Arabia, but only because they thought he was the monkey from Aladdin. Kevin's so short that they're gonna have to lynch him from a bonsai tree.
But just when it seemed like things could not get worse, Kevin went on The Breakfast Club and defended Tony Hinchcliffe, telling fans they needed to move on because nothing is off limits in comedy. That interview poured fuel on an already raging fire, and the backlash against Kevin intensified significantly after it aired. D.L. Hughley was among the comedians who responded directly, calling Kevin out specifically over his claim that he did not know what people expected from him, and that he could not simply jump up and drag Tony off the stage mid-performance. But DL's point cut straight through that excuse. Kevin knew the jokes were coming in advance, and he signed off on letting them happen. And on the specific argument about not being able to physically intervene, DL pointed to what happened at Tom Brady's roast, where Brady literally interrupted Jeff Ross in the middle of a joke to shut down material he did not want aired. So the idea that a roast subject has no power to stop anything is simply not true. Jeff Ross later tried to soften that moment by suggesting Brady was just having fun, but Andrew Schultz revealed that Netflix had explicitly instructed the roasters not to make jokes about Patriots owner Robert Kraft's 2019 arrest. So boundaries clearly exist. Certain things are clearly off limits, which means Kevin's entire "nothing is off limits" in comedy argument falls apart completely, and he knows it. He knows exactly who writes his checks and whose trauma gets protected. Black pain apparently does not make that list, and anyone who thinks that standard is applied equally should consider what would happen if one of those same edgy comedians made a joke referencing the Holocaust. There would be no laughing it off. There would be no telling people to move on. There would be wall-to-wall apologies, statements from politicians, and non-stop coverage. But jokes about slavery get defended as edgy humor, and critics get dismissed as oversensitive. That double standard is what makes this situation so difficult to ignore. This also brought to mind something Denzel Washington said years ago in an interview that speaks directly to this pattern. And honestly, not much has changed since he said it. Black historical trauma remains acceptable comedic material, while other communities' pain remains completely untouchable in the same spaces. Now back to Kevin specifically. Going on The Breakfast Club and responding with that level of arrogance, essentially asking what people wanted him to do, was a striking choice, because nobody was asking him to physically drag anyone off a stage. They were asking him not to laugh, or at minimum to do what Regina Hall did, sit there with a straight face and not perform enjoyment at jokes rooted in racial trauma. Hall did not laugh at any of it. Kevin, meanwhile, laughed louder than almost anyone in the room, and then, rather than acknowledging how that looked, or simply staying quiet, he doubled down and called Tony Hinchcliffe's set one of the best of the night. Now, the industry plant conversation did not come out of nowhere. This is something Cat Williams has been trying to put people onto for years, and for a long time, people dismissed him as bitter or jealous. The first time Cat raised questions about Kevin's rise was back in the early 2000s, around the same time Dave Chappelle was publicly talking about how black male entertainers in Hollywood are often pressured into wearing dresses as a kind of unspoken initiation before their careers are allowed to reach the next level. When someone asked Kevin about Dave's comments, he brushed it off and laughed, saying it never happened to him. He stopped short of saying he would never wear a dress for a role, but insisted he would never do anything that damaged his brand. Then, less than a year later, Kevin appeared in an SNL sketch wearing a dress, and immediately after that, his career exploded. Major film roles, stadium tours, massive endorsement deals. You can call that a coincidence, maybe it is, but Cat Williams sees it very differently. His position was that this is bigger than Kevin individually. It is a system, and Kevin simply took his turn in it. After that, Kevin's career kept climbing, while Cat kept running into legal trouble, and the tabloids worked hard to paint him as an out-of-control addict, rather than engage with anything he was actually saying. But Cat kept speaking. In 2018, he came back around, and this time included Tiffany Haddish in the conversation, arguing that there were black female comedians with significantly more talent who never got a real opportunity, and that Tiffany's rise was tied to catering to white audiences rather than genuine organic success. That clearly got under Kevin's skin. He and Tiffany went on The Breakfast Club together, and Kevin argued that Cat's frustrations were really just bitterness over losing opportunities due to his alleged substance issues. Kevin also claimed that Cat had never used his platform to lift up other comedians. But Cat was not going to let the substance allegations slide without a response, because that is one area where he has always been very direct and very clear about where he stands. After Kevin aired him out publicly, Cat moved quickly to set the record straight on his own terms.
He wasn't there and off making 85 milli. I was over here not making 85 milli. But it's all good. I don't mind $1 million a month and keeping my soul. As long as Richard Pryor was able to be the king of comedy and a crackhead, they gonna continue to say maybe I am. But again, I urge you, if there's a drug you can do that'll get you Cat Williams level, miss, you should OD on it.
But that was far from the end of it. Fast forward to 2025, and Cat Williams came at Kevin even harder, publicly labeling him a textbook industry plant and drawing a direct comparison between Kevin Hart and Jussie Smollett.
15 years in Hollywood, no one in Hollywood has a memory of going to a sold-out Kevin Hart show, there being a line for him ever getting a standing ovation at any comedy club. He already had his deals when he got here. Have we heard of a comedian that came to L.A. and in his first year in L.A. he had his own sitcom on network television and had his own movie called Soul Plane that he was leading? No, we've never heard of that before that person or since that person. What do you think a plant is? Maybe people don't understand the definitions of these words. He just did his documentary with Chris Rock where he shows you that his whole upbringing in comedy was on the East Coast.
Yeah, it was.
So how simultaneously was he here in Los Angeles doing the same thing? It didn't happen. It didn't happen. And I hate to seem like a petty individual for picking apart lies, but Jussie Smollett gonna keep lying until you say we don't.
And according to Cat, whether you call it the Illuminati or give it any other name, the reality is that there is a powerful inner circle running this industry. You either play by their rules or you never reach that top tier of success. And Kevin, in Cat's view, has clearly chosen to play along. Now, since all of that history, Kevin and Kat have supposedly made peace with each other. Kat even showed up and participated in the roast. But watching it, the tension between them still felt very real. And if you paid close attention to what Kat was actually saying up there, it did not come across like standard roast material aimed at getting laughs. It felt more like a man who wanted to look Kevin directly in the eye and say what he has always believed to be true. He acknowledged their ongoing beef, referenced Kevin's alleged connection to Diddy's social circle, and made it clear that while attending those parties does not automatically mean someone did something wrong, going completely silent whenever the subject comes up is a different matter entirely. But when you strip everything else away, this conversation really comes down to character and integrity. You do not need to subscribe to any conspiracy theory to form an opinion about what kind of person Kevin Hart has shown himself to be through his actions. His net worth is estimated at around $400 million, and yet he continues to actively promote gambling to his audience. So the real question worth asking is whether it is even reasonable at this point to expect Kevin Hart to take a principled stand on anything. And maybe the bigger question sitting underneath all of this is why so many people continue to put celebrities on pedestals and spend their hard-earned money supporting people who have made clear where their loyalties actually lie.